Some men chase success all their lives, but one man waited until the world least expected it. He was 55 when everything changed. A quiet professor who became the richest man on earth, outsmarting industries, predicting the future, building an empire brick by brick. And he did it when most people give up. This is the unbelievable story of the billionaire who started at 55.
At age 55, most people slow down. Some start thinking about retirement. Others believe life has already given them what they deserve. But Taikichiro Mori chose to begin. He didn't inherit wealth. He wasn't a young prodigy. He didn't start a tech company in his 20s. Instead, he spent most of his life as a quiet professor, earning an average income. And yet, at age 65, he made one decision, a decision that would make him the richest man on the planet, ahead of Bill Gates, ahead of Warren Buffett, ahead of every giant of his time. How does someone go from a middle-class academic to the wealthiest human alive starting late in life? This is the true story of Taikichiro Mori, and the lessons in this story can change the future of anyone who feels late.
The invisible years. Long before the skyscrapers, long before the billions, there was just a young boy born in 1904 Tokyo inside a nation struggling to rebuild itself. Taikichiro Mori didn't grow up dreaming of business. He didn't come from wealth or opportunity. His early life was defined by discipline, study, and routine. While others chased money, Mori chased knowledge. He spent decades learning economics, market forces, population movements, urban growth, and structural demand. But here's the twist. For more than 30 years, nothing extraordinary happened. He lived an ordinary life. He taught classes. He graded papers. He earned a professor's salary. He woke up every day knowing exactly what the day would look like. And yet, underneath that quiet life, a storm was forming. Mori wasn't just teaching economics. He was watching how cities evolved. He was studying land values before others cared. He was seeing patterns nobody else noticed. He simply needed one thing: time. Time to understand the world deeply enough that when the right moment came, he could act with absolute certainty.
The first taste of risk.
In his mid-40s, Mori finally took his first financial risk. Not a skyscraper, not a giant investment, just a tiny, modest building in Tokyo, purchased with cautious savings and borrowed money. Most would have ignored it, but Mori had spent decades studying population shifts. He knew Tokyo was about to explode in growth after World War II. He understood supply and demand before most investors even knew the terms. So he bought that small building, then another, and another. Each time carefully, quietly, without fanfare. There were no big celebrations, no flashy purchases. No one even knew he was building an empire. He still taught classes every morning, still walked the same campus path, still wore the same old-fashioned glasses and modest suits. But piece by piece, brick by brick, a future billionaire was being constructed.
The pressure years. Despite small wins, the journey wasn't smooth. Japan's economy went through instability. Interest rates rose. Banks doubted small investors. And Mori faced the fear that many people after 40 experience. Is this too risky for my age? What if I fail? What if I lose what little I have? But Mori used the power of time-tested knowledge. He didn't chase trends, he chased patterns. He wasn't guided by emotion, only by analysis. Slowly, the small investments began to pay off. Tenants moved in, values increased, rent grew, equity multiplied. By the time Mori was in his early 50s, he had built a foundation strong enough to attempt something bigger. But the world didn't know that his real breakthrough, the move that would change his destiny, was still a decade away. Most people believe 40, 50, or 60 is too late, but Mori proves this is completely wrong. People think slow years are wasted years, but Mori spent 30 years building expertise that would later turn into billions. This is important. He didn't gamble, he calculated, and that's the difference between losing everything and building a fortune.
The turning point and the rise. The decision at 55. Most people assume wealth comes from youth, from being fast, from taking early risks. But Taikichiro Mori made his biggest, boldest, life-changing decision at age 55. After decades of teaching economics, he retired from his university job, not because he was tired, not because he was done, but because he finally had the one thing young entrepreneurs don't: deep, lived experience. He understood Tokyo's land cycle better than anyone. He could see where the city would grow. He could predict where people would move. He could feel the heartbeat of the economy. So he made a choice that shocked everyone. He left behind the safe life of academia to become a full-time real estate investor. And he wasn't aiming small. He was aiming at Tokyo's most valuable land, the kind most investors were too scared to touch. This was his moment, the one he had prepared his entire life for, even if he didn't know it. This is the moment most people avoid. At 55, he walked away from security, but that decision created everything. The strategy no one saw coming. Mori didn't have the biggest team. He didn't have the biggest capital. He didn't have political power or corporate connections. But he had something far more valuable: a superior understanding of economics. While other investors chased hotspots, Mori studied migration, employment, commercial expansion, and infrastructure planning. He targeted buildings that looked ordinary, but were located in extremely strategic areas, areas the public didn't care about yet, but would soon become the heart of Tokyo. He wasn't buying property, he was buying the future. And he always followed 3 rules. Rule 1: never chase hype. Buy where growth is inevitable, not fashionable. Rule 2: use cash flow to buy more assets. Reinvest everything. He didn't upgrade his lifestyle. Rule 3: play the long game. He wasn't building a year's profit. He was building a generation's legacy. By the early 1980s, his properties began producing consistent income, enough to buy more, and more, and more. The quiet professor was turning into a real estate machine. This is the part people don't understand. Mori didn't chase what was popular. He bought what was inevitable. The explosion of Tokyo. Then it happened. Tokyo entered one of the fastest economic booms in history. Land prices didn't rise slowly, they skyrocketed. Areas no one cared about suddenly turned into gold mines. Buildings Mori bought for modest prices were now worth 10, 20, even 50 times more. And because he reinvested every yen, his portfolio didn't grow linearly, it grew exponentially.
In just a few years, small buildings turned into commercial blocks. Modest properties produced massive cash flow. His equity exploded. He had positioned himself perfectly, not through luck, not through risk, but through decades of preparation. By the mid-1980s, Mori wasn't just successful, he was becoming unstoppable. When a city grows this fast, the ones who understand the pattern before everyone else win on a massive scale. The world takes notice. By the late 1980s, Mori had built one of the most valuable private real estate empires on Earth. He owned some of the most profitable properties in Tokyo, the world's most expensive city at the time. And then came the moment that shocked the financial world. In 1991, Forbes announced that Taikichiro Mori was officially the richest man in the world, worth an estimated $13 billion, a number that was equal to around $30 to $40 billion today. He had more money than Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, every oil tycoon, every tech founder, every banking dynasty. Not bad for a man who started late and started small. His rise wasn't loud, wasn't flashy, wasn't built on hype. It was built on patience, pattern reading, and decades of quiet preparation. He wasn't a tech founder. He wasn't born rich. He didn't start young. He built wealth through time, wisdom, and patience. The billionaire who lived like a teacher. Despite becoming the richest man in the world, Taikichiro Mori didn't live like one. He didn't buy a yacht. He didn't build a palace. He didn't collect luxury cars. He still wore simple suits, still kept his routine, still walked his office hallways like a modest professor. Because in his mind, he was still the quiet academic who loved numbers, patterns, and ideas, not status. What made him extraordinary wasn't his money, it was his mindset. Wealth is the result. Understanding is the cause. He believed that if your understanding is deep enough, your results will eventually catch up, even if it takes decades. And that's exactly what his life proved. This is rare. Even after he became the richest man on earth, he didn't change. That's the power of a long-game mindset. The legacy move. As Mori entered his late 70s and early 80s, many expected him to slow down. Instead, he expanded. He founded Mori Building Company, a real estate giant responsible for shaping major parts of Tokyo's skyline. His sons would later take this foundation and build incredible landmarks, turning Mori's late-life success into a multi-generational dynasty. But Mori's legacy wasn't in the buildings. It was in the principle he proved. It's never too late to start the chapter that defines your life. He lived long enough to see billions, skyscrapers, and global recognition. Yet until his final days, he still smiled with the calm expression of a man who knew he didn't get lucky. He simply understood the world better than most, and he acted at the right time. This is how generational wealth is built, through principles, not luck.
Taikichiro Mori passed away in 1993, just 2 years after being named the richest man in the world. His journey ended, but his message became immortal. You are never too old. You are never too late. You are never past your time. If you spend years building wisdom, if you learn deeply, move strategically, and act boldly, your greatest moment can arrive when everyone else believes your story is over. Mori's life proves that age is not a deadline, it's a multiplier. The older you are, the sharper your judgment becomes. The more patterns you can see, the fewer mistakes you repeat, and the more powerful your decisions become. Your age isn't the end of your story. It's the start of your advantage.
The Age of Power. Taikichiro Mori's story is the ultimate reminder that your age is not a limitation. It is your advantage. Your 40s, 50s, 60s, these are the years when your experience becomes your greatest weapon. If Mori could become the richest man on earth starting after 55, what could you build starting today? That answer is in your hands. Take your experience, take your years, and start building. Because Mori proved one thing: the best chapter in your life can begin right now.